Well, without any further ado, then I would like to introduce Marseille Moret, and he is going to talk to us about some AI agents. So, Marseille, are you ready to go?
Yes, okay, thank you, Bob. I will share my screen and we start right here. Okay, building AI agents with n8n and FileMaker. This is a bit of an update to my presentation at Vienna Calling Conference earlier this summer, and it's not exactly the same. I will leave out a lot of the basic stuff and develop the topics further, and we will see new demos today that was not part of the Vienna Calling presentation, and it has to do with MCP and VibeCoding FileMaker. And beside that, we have a look at what agents are inside the context of n8n and the platform itself to understand how all this works together. So thank you for the introduction. Marcel Mouret, French name, I already said it, but I come from Germany. I'm into the IT space for a long time, 44 years now. I started early and I got early in contact with FileMaker, so I enjoyed a long journey from version 2 to today. And beside my business, I did some presentations at the European conferences. They are all still online on my blog. Not all have video recordings, but all the slides are available. Have a look at my blog if you're interested in. And beside that, together with Holger Herbst, we host a monthly meetup for FileMaker enthusiasts like you do in the California area. We do here in the middle center part of Germany. We hosted more than 100 events and have a website where are 400 write-ups to be found. We do no recordings, but we have a kind of newsletter with all the topics that were covered in detail. And if you are interested to join us as a guest or as a speaker or presenter, drop me a line. We can arrange this. Some of you have already joined, so spread the word and come to join us. So, short preface before we go into the demos. There's a little history lesson. Some of you know part of it. It was part of an earlier presentation from the years before here at FMDiSC. And you might remember this slide here. It's a kind of representative image what computer looked like in the ages when we were born. So it looked a bit old-fashioned from today's perspective, but that's how all this started. And something happens on the way until now. And I call this the 3 cycles of IT development. We had this command line computing, like we saw in this image before. We had desktop computing, and finally it was superseded with cloud computing as we know it today. So there are quite different approaches and the paradigms how to use this kind of IT and to develop infrastructure and applications changed a lot. And if we think of agents, agents have been some fictional characters with some kind of superpowers in famous movies we liked in all these years. And even they changed a lot in their appearance and what they can do. But now something happens in these times, the last 1 or 2 years. We have now a new era, the era of AI agents, and that means something completely different. As the guys on the side left, it means that now we have a new paradigm, a fundamental shift in computing. It is non-deterministic. It brings new kind of interactions. All this, what we have before, command line, desktop, cloud computing, it was very deterministic it was repeatable, it needed some expertise to set it up. And now we have this kind of AI agents that are totally different. And we have a look into it, and the side effect of it is that today we have a lot of hype. We are in the middle of a hype cycle, a lot of buzzwords coming up, and it's a bit challenging to understand all these concepts and how all these work together. And we will dive into this, see some of these topics related to FileMaker. And so let's get practical. I found a perfect tool to complement FileMaker. I did some coding with AI in FileMaker the last 2 years to call APIs from OpenAI and other providers. But then I stumbled upon n8n, and it made the approach a lot more easier with a lower barrier to get into the complicated stuff. So if you haven't heard of n8n before, it is a kind of acronym for Node Nation. It's a visual low-code platform, a bit like Claris Connect, but different. It's a startup from Berlin. It was founded 5 years ago by a guy named Jan Oberhauser. He needed something for himself, and he built something. And it was under the radar of many people. It had a very, very special purpose, but lately it got viral as a low-code AI tool. And if you look at YouTube these days, there are tons of stuff regarding n8n and AI agents, and that is for a special reason. n8n itself is a very solid platform. It has more than 1,000 integrations, official integrations built into the platform. Even a FileMaker integration comes out of the box. Then there is community integrations where you can install some kind of plugins to extend this further. They have meanwhile over 4,000 workflow templates that you can just grab from their website with copy paste into your editor, and it just works, and you can use it and evolve them further. At my last presentation, it had been only 2,000. You see, it just doubled in a time of a few weeks, and they earned more than 125,000 GitHub stars. That's quite a lot for a platform like this. And it is for the reason they have great documentation. They have a broad community, a bit like in the FileMaker space, where a lot of people doing different things. And the product itself is available as a cloud service, that their bread and butter business, but they have also on-prem version. And the on-prem version has a kind of free license. It's not open source, but it's a fair code license so that you can make use out of it. And it's a full product. It's a full product you can host on your own machine, on your own servers. And they have you can spin up a Docker image, download this, and have it running in 5 minutes. And it's interesting for us in the FileMaker space because it is a perfect complementary platform to extend our existing solutions further and connect this with the new AI stuff. And the AI stuff is that they have ready-made nodes for this. If we do AI in FileMaker, we have to call APIs, or in the newest versions, we have some script steps, and we have to fiddle out all the technical background to make this happen. And n8n is different. They have ready-made nodes that you can just implement with a few clicks. They have all of the state-of-the-art models integrated, OpenAI, Claude, Gemini, Mistral. Ollama is an option if you want to host local models on your own servers or machines. And yesterday, OpenAI announced ChatGPT version 5. It is available today in n8n. You can just select it from the node and use it. And how does it happen? They did a really clever integration of LangChain. And LangChain is one of the best of breed frameworks to orchestrate AI agents. It's open source framework as far as I know, and they integrate it into their workflow platform. So there's support for vector stores to make embeddings. They have CUDA and Pinecone, Supabase as standard options, but you can choose from other as well. And there's even a self-hosted AI starter kit on GitHub that you can just download as Docker images. There's n8n included, there's CUDA included, and Ollama included, so that you can host a fully self-contained, self-hosted version without any need for connection outside to any cloud provider. So there are some really interesting options in this. It's like a big toolbox, and we will have a look how to make sense out of it. So we dive into some demos. I had a chat with Matt Nawar earlier, and he said it would be best if I start with the interesting stuff first and then explain how it works. So I will switch a bit of my presentation right now so that you can get an impression why all this stuff is so exciting. On the left side, what we see here is the platform n8n, and what I will do next is I start up Claude and have a conversation with Claude, but not with Claude alone, but with the FileMaker file that is attached to the whole setup here. This is the Claude desktop app. You can install it on a Mac. It's just like the website, but it has a different thing that you can connect MCP providers here, MCP servers. So what we will see in a minute here is that this is the FileMaker file that I host on a local FileMaker server here. It has not fancy GUI, but just some data to illustrate what we can do with it. And I can just ask Claude about our data. And what we will see in a minute is I've prepared some, I have to fiddle around a bit with all these windows from Zoom here. Okay. We can ask, there are some fake names here. First I ask Claude which tools it has available. So Claude has some own tools for doing internet research and building these artifacts with JavaScript code and such things. But now you see there are some new tools here. There's an MBS plugin for FileMaker, documentation lookup. There's calendar event creation, email sending, invoice management. So that is not the classical setup that Claude brings out of the box, but this is a connection that n8n allows us to interact with our FileMaker data. So I can ask now for customer Maria from Sweden, for example. We see here's a name on the first line. And what you see now, there's a tool call to n8n. We can expand this. There's a query for the name, and back comes a response from our FileMaker database. And now Claude gets this data and says, okay, I found two people named Maria in the database. Here is one from Sweden. The other Maria is from UK, not Sweden. So this might be the one we are looking for. And I can go further and ask, does she have any invoices? And I only say she. I don't even provide a name or a record ID. I only extend this context we have here. There's another table with some invoices attached with customer ID and invoice ID. And so if I ask Claude to give us the invoices of this customer, it remembers that we had this customer here with this ID. It finds a tool that finds invoice by people ID, and it answers yes, okay, she has 4 invoices. And it goes even further that the model itself recognizes that there is a status field, and the status field says some invoices are paid and some are open. And I only ask if there are any invoices, and the model itself makes some reasoning about it. It gives us the content of the invoice, what products are on it. It makes a sum out of the amounts. It recognizes that there are some open invoices and gives us a note about this. So we have some other tools. We saw in the beginning that there is some kind of email tool as well. So I delete this. This was my test. And this is Google Calendar and Google Gmail. I attached an account to n8n, and now I will ask Claude to send a friendly reminder by email. I just say her a friendly reminder. I did not specify any further. I just call this and let the model fill out what to do next. So it finds a tool, send email. It remembers our history of our chat, which customer that was, were there any open invoices. And now I refresh my drafts, and here we are, a perfect texted email with a reminder. Dear Maria, I hope this email finds you well. I want to reach out with a friendly reminder about outstanding invoices. So the model was able to make sense out of our information from the FileMaker database, builds a professional email, and we have a draft that we can just send out now. And all this with a few words in plain English. No heavy API calling, no heavy programming, just an MCP server. And we will see in some minutes how this all works. We can go a bit further. I look up another customer, find John from California, and we can see that in the people's list, there might be a John. It again uses a tool, find people by name, query for John, and an answer comes back. So let's see if it finds the right person. And I ask for John from California, and this is a bit special here because there's no information about California in our customer database. We only have villages names, here city names, and zip codes, and country code. And now he said, okay, something went wrong. We have been disconnected. I just try to do it again. Tries to find, okay, he found two people, John Doe in San Mateo, and California is not even in our FileMaker record. It is something the LLM knows by itself, that San Mateo, USA is a town inside California with this postal code. So there's another John in Sweden, so this is not California, and the model figured out to do something with our data. So we go further, and let's look if we have some interesting tools. I have some demo data here for MCP. We have some products. I put in the cup, drag and drop to Claude and say, okay, create an invoice for this item priced $10. And we are in the context of John, so perhaps it is clever enough to create an invoice for John Doe and put a green mark into it for $10, and the invoice is opened. So just natural language, just very basic. I can drag in a picture. The LLM will understand what is inside the picture and make a line item in our invoice out of it, and it just works. So we go one further. We create new customers, and I don't want to type so much, so I got some images of business cards. I just drag it in. We see there's some fake images of mock-ups here. Let's see if the model is able to read this and create new customers in our people list. So look at the number, we have 103. He creates another customer because there is more. This is Michaela Gerster. This is the middle one. And now Yuma Yakruva Boston is the last one. So the AI was able to understand the text in the pictures, read the right information out of it, and put it in the right fields inside FileMaker. So I did not code anything to make this happen. It is just the capability of the AI to reason about what is the endpoint for providing me for fields in our FileMaker database, and how could I map the information from the image to some data fields inside this FileMaker solution. So we made some new customers. So we perhaps want to make an appointment with Max for a drink tomorrow at 10 a.m. and send him a nice invitation by email. Here's some demo data already populated. This is our Google Calendar. This is our email. I assume that the model is able to understand who Max is. It will read the information. It needs his email address. It will create an event. You'll see it populate here. It's right at this moment, meeting with Dr. Max Muster. Then he finds people by ID. He created this record, so it remembers the ID. And okay, it called a tool that we didn't want it to call. There's another one to create a node. So that's not what was intended. I can show you here. Notizen is a German word for, okay, something went wrong. It's not, so we talked about it is always predictable. And I will show you why this is not that much predictable, because there's nothing involved here. No system prompts, no coding. It's just the AI guessing what we want to do next. So how is it possible? We'll have a look at n8n now. And what we did here, we have a kind of MCP node. MCP is a new protocol. Anthropic introduced it some months ago. It's a kind of standard to talk for AI models to talk to tools. And tool could be a very simple thing like a calculator. I can show it to you. We make a new chat. Use the calculator tool I give it 2 numbers and let it do its thing. You can see it here. Executions. If it works, it calls the calculator now with some input and then gets a response. It took here 5 milliseconds. We can open this, look in our log file, and if we make it this bigger, we can see the MCP server was called. The model figured out that there is a tool called calculator. The calculator got our query. This is what we put in here. And then the calculator returned a response. This is a tool that only can do calculations, so it has not to guess around what to do. It just takes its numbers, gives back the response and feed it back to the AI agent. And the AI agent will present us the result as text. So this is a basic principle, that we have an endpoint for an MCP server that is connected to Claude. We see it here. We have these 13 tools here inside Claude. There's a calculator at the top, and then we have all these other: find people by name, find people by ID, find invoice by people ID, and so forth. We have send email, create event, create invoice, and all these are endpoints in our MCP server. So if we go back to the editor, you can see it here that there are just some tool points here: find invoice by ID. And there's just a little node: call this tool to find invoices in the database by invoice ID. And then we can choose from our workflows. There are all our workflows inside n8n. We can just look it up here, attach it to this endpoint for find invoice by ID, and then give it a query. And we didn't even specify the query. We just say, okay, defined automatically by the model. So it's no JSON definition, nothing. Just a field that we say the model should figure out what to do here. And the only hint we give it, that there is a invoice ID as a number needed. So Claude will look up all these metadata, will identify the names of the tools with their meaning, and even identify what parameters are needed, and then specify all the interaction with the MCP protocol to bring back and forth the needed information and call the tools. And if we look at find invoice by ID, we go back here. There's a you can look it up, find invoice by ID. There's a small workflow. When it's called, then it's just one node here, the FileMaker node, and it's connected to my FileMaker server. There's a host address. There's this people database we saw in the other window, and I have an API login key here that I prepared on the FileMaker side. And then we can select the given layouts that are in this file and do some kind of action here. Find record in this case to identify. And here I specify from the list of fields where the call should put in its query. And here's the only hard-coded thing, that we have find ID by the query that is delivered from n8n at this step, and then the rest happens behind the scene with the AI tool calling n8n. So just to give you an impression how powerful this is, so there's very little here. There's no scripting involved in the FileMaker side. I can show you. I just tried a few hours before to add a step here to.
Marseille.
Yes.
Sorry, I just want to get a little context here. The MCP endpoints and all of that you're showing, that's all within n8n, right? Those are products of n8n.
We have this on a slide in a few minutes.
Okay, all right.
Then it's easier to understand. Perhaps we
Sure.
jump there first before the other demos. So I skip something here. And now how this works. n8n is a kind, in its foundation, a kind of workflow platform. So if you knew other tools like Node-RED, it's just a Node.js server with some JSON objects that are piped through your workflow definition. And there's some kind of local storage to store the workflow definition and your credentials. So what it takes is there are triggers to click something, there are webhooks to call something by URL, and there are APIs to integrate with other services. Like we saw the email or calendar thing, that is an API call to a different service. And we will see it in a minute how it looks like in the n8n environment. And it's kind of big playground of like Lego bricks, you can stick something together very quickly. And then n8n in this foundation got a second incarnation about a year ago. They introduced these AI agents. This is a LangChain framework that they did very clever inside their UI, so that you don't see all these complicated stuff. You just see a node and you can connect your node to an LLM, to a vector store, or to some kind of tools we just saw in the minute before. And now there is a third incarnation. It is the AI wrapper with MCP protocol. It was introduced lately, just some weeks ago. They introduced two nodes. One is a MCP client, so you can call other services. And one is an MCP server, so that you can make any workflow that is inside your n8n into an MCP endpoint that is visible to an AI outside. And that makes the whole thing interesting, because the platform itself has all these capabilities as a local service or as a remote service. There's no limitation in this. This is kind of Swiss knife where you can do any call in any direction. And this is quite awesome because it gives us a lot of freedom and a lot of power with simple nodes to orchestrate a whole tool chain of AIs, of API calls to cloud services, of local data, of local connection to FileMaker. Anything is possible. So, and we saw this kind of agent. And what you need to make it happen is you need this integration platform for all these connectors that is attached to them. This is n8n. You need a workflow. We will dive in a minute to see how a workflow is built. Then you have your tools. In our case, one tool was FileMaker, connection to FileMaker Data API. Another tool was Google Mail, and another tool was Google Calendar. So we had 3 tools and the calculator. And then we had an LLM that was Claude, and we had some prompts. The prompts were very simple because we only used some notes here to describe what these tools will do, but you can develop it further. And prompts is the secret sauce inside the new paradigm of development, because you will tell the agent, the AI engine, what to do and what not to do. And finally, you have some kind of interface be it a data connection to the database or a chat interface to make some sense out of what this agent will do. And to bring it into a kind of overview here, we have our FileMaker and some tools. We build a workflow. We connect this together. It's very similar to what Claris Connect does. We have these connectors and bring it in some kind of sorry, I missed some words. We make a sophisticated workflow on top of it, and we involve an AI model to make it more clever, that we have not be so deterministic to do some things. And then on top of it, we can even attach MCP as a kind of wrapper and attach another AI model with reasoning so that you can do high-level instructions to your agent. And we attached some other tools with connectors. The Google thing was not inside our FileMaker workflow, it was a separate tool that was attached to our platform here. And if you look at it from technical perspective, the n8n platform and the agentic workflow and all these connectors live inside a container. In my case, it is a Docker container living on my machine. And the agent is just a kind of definition. It's a definition of how these tools should work together, of which connectors are inside our workflow, and then finally an announcement to the outside with MCP so that other tools can connect to our workflow and do something with it. So there are many loose ends here, but it makes sense to look at it in both of this perspective, from technical perspective and from a definition perspective, what our agent is. Because our agent can live anywhere. It can live in the cloud and can live on a local machine. It can live in some workflow. It can integrate many different layers of tools and information here. And this is a powerful thing behind it. So if we connect FileMaker, we have different ways to do it. I will show you two other demos after this. The first one was the MCP, so the order is now in reverse. One possible way to integrate FileMaker is just to use a FileMaker client and call a webhook. It's like we would do it with OpenAI API or something else. You have an API endpoint in URL, and with a script step insert from URL, you can send some data, some JSON data, and get some response back. And the API call will handle anything on this workflow. This is one way to do it. Another way to do it is we integrate the FileMaker node that we saw before. We had this FileMaker node that was connected to a server via data API, and there was this different actions that we can find or create a record, of delete a record or edit a record, and all this is handled via an API call to the FileMaker server. And the trigger would then be perhaps a chat interface from an AI agent. So very different setup, but it depends on your use case when to use which. And the third option is what we just saw. We put MCP in the game, and then Claude can call a special webhook that is called the MCP server, and the MCP server will tell Claude, okay, I have some kind of tools that are defined inside my workflow. This is a tool find customer, a tool find invoice, a tool create invoice, a tool create a calendar event, and all this knowledge goes into Claude before Claude is calling our command and tries to do something useful. And in the back end, on the API side, we have a FileMaker server connected with our database and our customers and invoices. And the magic now happens inside Claude, because Claude identifies from our user input what we like to do. If we put in a picture of a business card and say, okay, make a new customer, then Claude will prepare all this data, call the MCP server with the right tool, and push the data inside FileMaker. So there's nothing special inside the FileMaker part of it, but the intelligence comes from Claude as a reasoning model who's able to call tools. And the magic here, when it comes to our FileMaker solution, is that we can wrap up our FileMaker business case into an MCP server and just give it a name and just give it some name of field with some basic hints what to do with it. And then the AI agent is capable of doing something meaningful. And this is without any coding. And this is a really clever concept because the AI already knows how to interpret data, how to call tools, how to choose the right tools. So we don't have to tell it. We only have to provide some basic information as metadata so that the AI agent itself could identify what to do next. And this is a kind of paradigm change that I meant in the beginning, in the history lesson, because when we tried to do such things in FileMaker before, we had to set up every little step in front of it and make every little decision and what could happen and what could go wrong and how the data should be mapped to our fields. And all this is taken away right now because the AI model is intelligent enough to talk to an abstract interface and do the right things for us. And so this is a really powerful instrument. If you think it further, you can just start with your existing business solution, find some possible use cases, and bring a new interface for chatbot, for Slack channel, for email channel. And if you look on YouTube, you will find a ton of stuff where people make such high-level workflows, and it's really impressive what they do. It's kind of stuff that we as experienced developers could not even imagine that something like that would be possible. There are some people out there, they show demos how a complete team of business people is made up by agents. And the difficult part is to restrict it to a very limited set of actions that it could not go worse and make something that we don't want it to do. So FileMaker MCP, to wrap it up, there's no scripting, no JSON, no API engineering. It's just saying, this is what I have, this is my data, this is my tool sets, and this is what I want. This is what the user puts in, and the model figures out how to solve it. And this is abstracting away the technical pain, and it's just clear and straight language instructions. It's not perfect in any case, but it's amazing how far it is right now, because this is very new concepts that comes up right now, and there's a lot of things happening in the background. The big players in AI are thinking about new protocols to make this more reliable. If you think of it, you can't attach an unlimited number of tools to just one node. There are some reasonable limits to it, but as this technique is evolving, so are coming new ways to define it and to interact with it. And this is a proof of concept that with very little effort and the help of n8n, we can instrument this to make use of it in our FileMaker solutions. And I switch back to n8n for a moment to show you how easy it is to define an agent. When we start at a blank sheet, this is the worksheet in n8n. We can add a trigger here. We can add something to the trigger FileMaker. I take my prepared credentials here. I say get records. I prepare a layout and a limit. And I say execute, and boom, we have our data. So very simple. I have a trigger and a node, and inside the node I do some instructions, and the data begins to flow. And if you think it further, the power comes from the sheer number of integrations. you can type in anything you can imagine. There are hundreds of services already prepared. Microsoft, you can use Slack, you can use, you name it, MailChimp, whatever. You can even add WhatsApp as a chat model or Telegram. There are thousands of integration if you even take the community plugins on top of it. But this is out of the box. You type a letter and you see the long list of database services, cloud services, AI services. Everything is just ready to go. And so when we build an agent, it's similar, easy. We need another kind of trigger. We need a chat trigger. So we take this one. Then we add an agent. There's a pre-built node for this. You see it is still red because something is missing. We will need a chat model to make some sense. And now we have a selector here for all these big AI providers. We start with OpenAI. We can choose any model from the list. We can make it with GPT-5, was just provided yesterday. Perhaps we have luck and it's not overcrowded. So, and we are ready to go. That's it. We can open our chat and talk to it. Hi there. So you see there is something working. The agent is calling the model. It comes back with an answer and answers on our chat. Hi there. Hi, how can I help you today? And I can say I am at the FMDiSC meeting in California. So let's look what it answers. Perhaps using GPT-5 was not the best idea because it is a bit lame today because everyone in the world is trying to do something with GPT-5 right now. I stop it and we take another model. We go with 3, 4. It's okay. Save it. Ask again. Should be a bit quicker. That's great. FMDiSC meeting is a great opportunity. And if I ask it again, where am I would expect it to answer. But it says, I'm an artificial intelligence that is here to assist you. You can please provide me more information where you are. So it has no idea. It is because it has no memory. We just gave it a brain. So we give it some memory. We have some advanced database technologies here. We give it a simple memory with a context window of 10 chat messages. And if we do it again, I say, I'm at the FMDiSC meeting in California. Now you see there are 2 items here in our memory. And if I ask it again, where am I? It should now remember, you are at the food marketing, interesting, okay, FMDiSC in California, but it made up some answer upon our earlier input here. And now we can provide it a tool, and tool could be anything. We start simple here with a calculator. So we don't have to give it any parameters here. We can just start. What is some complicated number and another number. And what we would expect now is that the agent is capable to understand that it has a calculator, and it will use the calculator now to give us an answer. So here the tool gets green, so it has gotten a query. We see it here. It has a response, and the model is then giving us the response back in plain English. So you understand the basic principle. We can add even more tools here. We can now take our Gmail tool and we have to use a ready-made account. There are some credentials behind it. So you have to connect with OAuth here, then it will be stored in a local data store in an encrypted way. So you need some IDs and API URLs here to call this. And if it's set up, you can then say, okay, we take our chat input, put it into the message here. We need some address to send it, info@test.com, and then we can execute this. And so, okay, we have no subject. We get an error message, but you see it's very simple. You can add a tool and another tool and another tool, and it's endless what the possibility gives up here. So we stop it here just to understand what an agent is and how simple it is to build such an agent with in a simple workflow. I prepared some other demos. This is an interesting one because this is not an agent, this is just an agentic workflow. And what it does is, I have a sample file here. This kind of invoices inbox. I use it in my own accounting. What it does is I can take some PDF invoices. It will be read in this FileMaker file. This file lives locally here, is no server involved. And if you look at it, there are different kind of invoices from OpenAI, from whatever, Raycast, and every invoice looks different. Every invoice has different information, but it has some information about the invoice number, about the customer, about the vendor, and the amount. And so what I try to do here is to get all this information automatically, that I don't have to type what's in the PDF into my FileMaker solution. So I can call a workflow here, and we will see there is a transfer started here. And now what it does, it calls a webhook inside n8n. It encoded the PDF as base64, and the workflow returns a JSON with all the fields I would like to have inside my accounting. So it basically reads all these PDFs now and gives us the information right in this way that my accounting solution needs it. And I had this a year ago with ChatGPT. There was an implementation with the Vision API from OpenAI. You can send an image and do some OCR on the image, and then you can send it to a model, and the model will fiddle out how to get the information. But it was a bit cumbersome because I had to convert to an image first. When I had already a PDF, when it's multi-page PDF, I had to split it up and do multiple calls, and it was a bit impractical to use. And finally, I read some news on LinkedIn that Google Gemini 2.0 Flash is capable of reading multi-page PDF. And what I did, I just set up my n8n with a new workflow. Okay, there was a timeout here. I show you what it did. We have the executions here. So we had 3 calls. The first 2 was successful, and the last one got an error timed out because there was no quick answer. And we look it up. What it does, it gets this is a script that is called it. It converts my PDF file to base64. I do it with MBS plugin. I think it adds some metadata here if it's to give it the right MIME type. And then finally, there is a request to a webhook. And if we look inside this webhook here, we have a test URL and the production URL. And I just copied this from n8n to put it in here. As the URL that is called, and then there is some curl option here, and finally it inserts from URL and gets some JSON back. And the whole magic is done by a prompt. Here is a prompt, a system prompt inside that does something with the information as text that is gets out of the PDF. And here is summarized this invoice document. You're an expert extraction algorithm, only extract relevant information from the text. Then there are some extra rules how to handle certain situations and certain fields that I need. And what it does then is takes this file. This is a base 64 representation of our file that we are sending from FileMaker, and it put it together with the prompt and an API key to our Gemini Flash model. So there's an endpoint here in the Google Cloud, and we give it the API key, we give it some JSON with our MIME type and our data, and finally we have an information extractor, and there is the logic that we map back to our JSON that we need in FileMaker. So here's a description that we have a vendor here for that company that sent the invoice, we have a recipient of the invoice, we have a gross amount, and so forth. And finally, when this step is ready, we will get some output here. This is what goes in as a text. This was Gemini recognized, and then this was the extractor makes out of this text. We can look up as schema or as a JSON, and that is finally what is sent back to the insert from URL step here inside our FileMaker file. So this has nothing to do with agents. This is just power of LLMs. So we have a model to read the PDF and make text out of it, and we have another model with Google Gemini chat here to make use of the information extractor to provide us a clean JSON to get all the data that we wanted. And this is handsome. I use it regularly to, I have some more invoices every month to process here, and it's not very fast, but it's suitable enough to use it in my workflow. So this is the part we saw in the overview, and one last demo. I have to look if we have time. Okay, some more minutes. Another interesting part is RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation. You might know this because FileMaker itself in the newer versions also has a RAG included. This is a part with the embeddings. So what n8n has, it has access to some specialized embedding vector stores. Pinecone is a highly sophisticated option in the cloud. You have to pay for this. Then there's Qdrant, it's an open source. There's also a cloud option, but you can install this local. I can show you here. I have a Docker running, and inside my setup is Qdrant and n8n and some other stuff I need behind the scenes. So it's relatively easy to install and to maintain. And what it does is we can put it some chunks of information, and it will store this in the vector database. So I always thought, wouldn't it be nice to have a good documentation of MBS plugin, because MBS plugin is highly sophisticated. There are thousands of different functions, and it's hard to use this website to find the right things. So what I did is I found a dash work doc set. Sorry, I'm in the wrong. This is the block. We go to the doc set. And n8n has a possibility to include, this is a SQLite database, and we can just query this. And we see there are 7,000 and some items, and this is all the functions that are inside MBS plugin. And so I built a workflow to read all these documents. It iterates over all these 7,000 items. It reads the HTML from disk. It deletes away all this navigation that we get just the raw information from the description of the functions, and we generate some UUID and finally put it into the vector store. And the vector store, you need a credential to talk to it. It's a web service in the background, and we have some commands here to insert documents. And then I can select in which of these stores I will save this kind of a table like we know it in FileMaker, and we can even add other options here, but we don't need it. And what it finally did is it created this 7,000 and a bit entries in this MBS function catalog. And if we look into it, it's like this. We have a web interface here to read this. This is the text we provided to the vector store and some metadata. This is the name of the function, that it is a type of function, this is a file, how to use it to look up in the web. And so now I have 7,000 chunks of text, and there are even mechanisms here for the text splitter to chunk this. I can give it a chunk size and overlap. Ian will know what this means. He told us at the other conference how to do this in the right way. And so here you can just click and choose from a menu and make it happen. And the interesting thing is that Qdrant gives us some tool to understand what it did. I can, visualize was the one. I can limit this here to 500 to make it a bit easier to understand. And this is our vector space. This is our multi-dimensional room where all these documents finally are represented. And you see it on the right side when I mouse over a point here, then this is the content that is behind this node. And the interesting thing is if we look up some points that are near together, that are the same group of functions from MBS. So you can see the similarity here in a graphical way. You might have heard of the cosine similarity function and this stuff that is available in FileMaker right now. And here is a counterpart to understand how it all works behind the scenes. So it's quite interesting to learn about this. And I learned a lot in this, just a sample example here to understand all this. And what I finally learned after doing a bit of integration here, I have this chat agent here. We saw this agent module. We have this OpenAI chat model here, a window buffer, just in the, like in the example before. And now we give it 3 tools. For every different vector store, we have another tool. One for the doc sets, one for the user guides, and one for every block. Christian was so nice to give me access to all his data he collected in the last 20 years, so I could feed it into this Qdrant store, and now we can start talking. What is the latest version of MBS? And now we can see it talks to the model, but it did not use any of the vector stores because this is metadata information that is in our system prompt, so it does not have to look up. But if we say, what function do I need to convert XML to JSON, then it will look inside our doc sets, it gets some items back, it makes some sense out of it, and will try to provide us here a detailed information. It has even a basic code example here. There's an explanation of all the parameters, and for more detailed information it provides us a link, so we can click the link and go right to the documentation from the MBS plugin. This is quite powerful because we can ask anything with any meaning without needing to know how the exact function is called. We can ask it how to change the paper tray. No one needs paper anymore in the printer, but we ask it anyway. Paper tray in the printer. And perhaps it looks up something. I cannot find information. Okay, then I had to formulate it another way. This is important that it does not hallucinate and tells anything out from guesswork. And this is because there is a extended rule set here, and that was the real work inside this project to make some good rules, what the AI should do, what it not should do, answer only based on information from the provided document, if a question cannot be answered using clearly state, I cannot find any information. So no one could joke around with our LLM here. No one could ask it to bring up some crazy things. It will just follow our rule sets. And here is the metadata that I told you which version are provided. And then it can look it up from the different sources. So we are running out of time. I'll show one final example to make sense out of this. Because we have Claude, and Claude is one of the best models when it comes to coding. So perhaps we can do something with Claude in connection with our RAG system here. I will have some prepared statements here. We can do the same here. We can ask it which is the latest MBS plugin version. And hopefully it will use the tool. We have the MBS Code Node Assistant here. This is kind of MCP server. And we can look at its executions, and we will see here is some call running to the MCP MBS bot. So the latest plugin version is 15.3. Here's the date and some further information. And now we will challenge the model to do some FileMaker work, create a custom FileMaker custom function to make geocoding of a given address and return result as JSON. Make use of MBS functions, keep it short. Just have a look what it does. If we are lucky, it will not hallucinate anything, but okay, this is just what I not wanted. It didn't use a tool, it made up something out of its own knowledge. Perhaps it will work because Claude is very clever meanwhile to know a lot about FileMaker coding, and it knows even a lot about MBS. But it turns out sometimes it just hallucinates and does not use the correct spelling or the correct functions, or to make up some functions that does not exist. So we should tell him to use the MBS Assistant to create the function. So let's have another try. Okay, now it calls the code assistant. We will see it running here on the left side. So it does a query here, create FileMaker custom function geocoding with JSON, and perhaps it gets something back. So it's making a new artifact here, and now it gives us a function, and we can just copy and paste this. I did experiment a lot. You can even create scripts with FileMaker, but you will miss out a functionality to put the script back into the FileMaker script editor because there is no clear text option right now. Perhaps Claris will evolve this further. There were some announcements that something might be coming, but in the meantime, it's a good option to reduce this to custom functions, because a custom function you can just grab, copy, paste and use it. And as we are running out of time, I just show you some examples. I have prepared some hours before. This is our example right now. I'm sorry for the German menus here. This is custom functions. And we have geocoded address here. This is just copy paste. This is a one-shot example that Claude gave me with the knowledge of the MBS RAG in the background. And it gave me this function, and I tried it, and it did the right thing. I take this out here. I call the first function. It's just plain JSON. Then I said, okay, it would be nice to have it as XML. And then it gave me another function, and you can try it here. Just let it run in the background as we look into the result. Extends the custom function to return the result as XML. And then Claude looked up for geocoding in XML and recognize, oh, there is no geocoding XML function in MBS. I have to do something else. And Claude was clever enough then to do a conversion step behind the JSON and extend the script even so far that you can switch between JSON or XML, and you can provide another parameter here for format. So this is really clever because Claude figured out something that even was not in the documentation. So if we try this, there's the second one, geocode version 2, and it will provide either XML or JSON. And it's just with this selector here. So it's just a proof of concept to illustrate that this works. And if it comes back now, what will it bring to us? It is a simple kind of possibility to provide specific FileMaker, or in this case MBS plugin for FileMaker information, to make Claude even more powerful, because Claude does not know anything about sophisticated FileMaker, because there are no good resources about this. Claude could read some websites, but it could not dig into the FileMaker solutions itself, because there are no public available script examples. Somehow Claude knows something, and if we attach additional information, it gets better and better and could make really good functions and really good scripting. And if we think this further, we have this missing link here, that there is no API to remote control the FileMaker development, but we have the XML patch tool and some other approaches in the community. And perhaps we will get some workflow ready to extend this further. And I just recently discovered that there is a public repo. It's called Context 7. Context 7 is a kind of MCP service that collects any information about any tool chain, about any program language, any framework, any specialized tool that no one else knows. And so we as a community could provide markdown formatted information about FileMaker and any thing out of the FileMaker space to make Context 7, to give it the knowledge so that any LLM could look up this information by MCP and supply it in our development chain. And perhaps if we are lucky and there are some kind of APIs to control FileMaker from the scripting side, from the UI, that you can do UI objects or something. We just heard that there will be a presentation at the other FileMaker meeting in a few days. So that's exciting stuff, because if you think this further, we can end up to have a fully integrated FileMaker IDE that is powered by the intelligence of some tool like Cursor or Claude or whatever is in the AI space available at this point. This is a bit of the view of the future, but we're going in this direction. And so it's exciting times to keep track on all of this. The key takeaway now is AI is a crazy beast. It's not quite predictable what it does. You have to do a lot of refining and to make good prompting and all this. But n8n toolbox enables you to harness all this power behind it, because you don't have to do the heavy lifting with the API calls, with all this coding and JSON formatting. n8n will totally take it away from you, and you can get on top of it to master the next level. And n8n as a toolbox is a good starting point to learn about AI development concepts. And with MCP, you have even this easy abstraction to put some ready solutions, perhaps your ready-made FileMaker solution that you use for 20 years, and you could put an MCP endpoint on top of it with the help of n8n and provide it to the intelligence of all these AI agents. And this is a really interesting approach, because it did not involve heavy coding, but you can just plug and play and start use it. And so the evolution of the toolchain is that new architectures extend the classic software development. I think personally it will not replace it, but it will extend it in some new and special ways. So solutions can be built on different abstraction layers, and you can integrate your existing solutions. The question is, will we need fancy UI stuff in the coming years, or will there be new approaches to do this with speech, with some kind of glasses where the model will see what you see? But it's a mixture of models, of protocols, of valuable content, of highly sophisticated prompts. There are even prompt libraries and services for prompt libraries evolving right now. If you heard of Manus, it's a Chinese AI provider. They do a lot of good prompt templates. And finally, it's these kind of wrappers that you can interact in all these different directions and make an own definition what your AI agent will do. So to get you started, I compiled you a list with the basic resources of n8n. There's even a self-hosted AI starter kit. You can download this from my blog. There's a ton of stuff on YouTube and LinkedIn. The slides of my previous presentation are available for download with even more information than it was shown today. And I have a recording of the Vienna calling presentation in preparation. Perhaps it will be available soon on YouTube. So then you have the other part with the basic building blocks of n8n to understand a bit more. Because today was a bit quick, we had not that much time to go in every detail, but just let's discuss, use this kind of discussions in the FileMaker meetings to exchange our ideas, our experiences, to show up new tools. And I think it's a very exciting time to live in and as a developer. And we should not be afraid of being replaced by AI agents, but use them to do even more crazy stuff than we are used to do. So thank you so much for having me today and for being here. I hope I could have showed you some interesting ways what is possible right now with MCP in the space of FileMaker. And if you have ambitions to dive deeper into n8n, I can say it's worth it. And it's a very low barrier to get into it. So thanks a lot. And if we have some time left, we can use it for Q&A.
Thank you very much, Marseille. That was really fascinating and very powerful tools. I think no one would argue with that. Just to add on to what Marseille was just saying, also the recording of this entire FMDiSC meeting will be up in a few days on our YouTube channel. So you can go back and analyze some of that if you want to and play with some of these tools. Does anyone have any questions for Marseille?
Don't be shy, just ask.
You probably said this, but what are you running it on? Like what type of computer are you running everything on?
This is my M1 MacBook Pro. I just transferred it to M4 to be a bit quicker and with speech interaction, but I didn't made it for today. But it's running on a quite old machine, 3 or 4 years old. And I run it inside Docker. I learned this in a YouTube video in 20 minutes, how to set up Docker. I never used it before so much, so even this was new for me, but it was very easy steps to get into all this n8n stuff.
Have you experimented with adding any GPUs through the PCI
Not
bus?
yet. Not yet. On my new MacBook Pro, I have Ollama installed. I haven't used it so much because I'm just busy transferring all my projects from one computer to the other and set up everything from scratch. But this is an option, and I think it's for some use cases interesting to have a local model. And we heard before in the announcement that these OSS models from ChatGPT were announced last week, and could be interesting if you have enough CPU power to set up something. And what I did, there's a service called DigitalOcean. They host on AWS in any region in the world. And so I made up a Docker image in the cloud so that I have the flexibility to switch and have some callback endpoints.
Wow, fascinating stuff. Thank you.
There are even providers to let you set up the open source version. There's in Europe we have this. Oh, I miss the name right now, but it's in the compiled list. Just download. I provide you the link in the chat here. There is a whole list of services that integrates n8n ready to start, or you can just start with an example account at n8n itself.
Tim Owen here. I have what's more of a philosophical question, I guess you'd call it. I mean, a lot of the technical aspects of it are fascinating to me, but we're way above my current pay scale at the age of 79. A lot of the demonstrations you showed were how a developer might use this. You also use that example of how an invoice could be generated and sent, and sometimes a contact created automatically. I'm looking back at, old FP5 days when a good FileMaker solution was completely locked down. So you only let the user do exactly what you had planned on and attended it. And we've come a long way since then at giving the user more and more power. But there's a point at which I'm a bit suspicious of giving the user too much power because they will misuse it. And I wonder if anyone has any sort of philosophical type comments about that aspect of, are you giving the user too much power, letting them do too much that may be out of your control and maybe going against the user's intentions and your own intentions as a developer, keeping people on the path to data righteousness.
Yes, of course. It's a very fair point to look at security and the implications. And the demo today was for developers. It was not for production. I would not use such things in production. I will lock it down, like you said. That will mean some efforts, and there are tools inside, and even n8n and all these MCP protocols. They are evolving right now. They will be more sophisticated in some time to allow to integrate this security layer right inside the protocol that it's not possible right now. So you have to lock it down your own way to provide good prompts, to provide good rules inside your prompts, to perhaps double check. You can use another agent to double check the input or output from the first agent. There are a lot of options, and so this is a learning that is taking place right now because we grew up in the old world. We knew the old type of coding and the old architectures, and this is something completely new. And so we have to learn, we have to relearn, we have to adapt. And I wouldn't say any solution should be converted to this new kind of model, but there are some use cases where it will take a lot of pain out of our traditional approaches and allow something new. And so this is a kind of balance to find the sweet spot where it is worth it to invest into this new kind of integration. And on the other side, there are good reasons for some old style solutions to keep them like they are. And so we have to learn a lot here and in this place. And so to finish this with a good point is n8n, for me, I discovered it by chance, is a good playground to learn. It is not in so much theory, and it is even not so hard to code and so hard to learn. You can get in very low barrier and make your explorations, and then you can experience by yourself what is possible and what it's better not approachable. So it's kind of game now. And
I completely agree that it's a whole brave new world, and there's nothing that excites developers in FileMaker or any developers in other technologies that excite them more than playing around and finding new and interesting stuff. But I guess my point goes back to, in the process of making it easier, on one hand, then it makes it harder to add a sort of a control or security level, whatever you want to call it, on the other side, because that's as much our responsibility as developers as making it easy for people to do something as to control it within certain limits, to keep people on a leash without their knowing that they're on one, so to speak.
Yeah, I think Tim, you raise a really good point because people will, I know that over 25 years of doing this, that people will come up with interesting ways to break things and try to go beyond what you've given them, assuming that there's functionality there that isn't. And so, the question is, can you properly define the parameters for your AI to be truthful in every circumstance? What if they ask for a piece of information that doesn't exist at all? Is it really going to tell them that information doesn't exist, or is it going to try to accommodate them with something that's, a hallucination? And maybe you've thought of all the ones that are reasonable. Maybe they've thought of some that are unreasonable to ask for. And, so yeah, I think that's where a lot of the art of using AI exists, is in defining the parameters properly, putting the right restrictions on it, and then still getting answers that are coherent.
Of course, Bob, but the real danger is not the AI. The AI is unpredictable. We will learn how to do it, but the real danger is that we are out of the business soon because other people go into the space and use these tools without asking, without doing all this security stuff, without making up sophisticated strategies. They just do it because they now have these easy tools and they develop something, and that are no developers, that are marketing people, that are any people, kind of people that run their own business, and they get these tools inside their hands and they do crazy things. And if you see it, if you look in YouTube, I was amazed what I saw, what I thought was never possible, but this is a hype cycle now. And so it will take some time to sort out what is hype and what is really practical and useful for production. We know what is useful for production, but the guys outside there that are in the hype cycle and they do anything with it, they don't spend any thought about this. And so this is a real danger because our customers get into this trap of believing all these new guys coming into this AI space and promising everything. And the question is, how much can they deliver, and how quick can we adopt to the new tools to be in the game any longer. So I think we as the veterans, we have a good overview, but we have the danger of being left out because the new guys are no developer guys that comes with these new solutions. And so we have to have an eye on this and understand what's happening.
Yes, agreed. Okay, well, we're way over time, which is fine. I think is a fascinating topic and deserved a little extra time. Thank you to all of our presenters today, Marseille, Phil, who I think had to leave us a little early, and of course Chris Moyer with his excellent tech news roundup. The next meeting is on September 12th, and we will see you all then.